So we've done a couple of mastery classes on adjustments and comp selection, and we're going to focus on just a couple of factors that generate leads with CMA Snap. I can't tell you how many different agents have come up with different ways that they have generated leads with these reports, and I'm going to talk about a couple of them. But the truth of the matter is that once you guys get into it and you start getting used to how easy it is, you're going to come up with your own stuff. And when you do, I'd appreciate if you would send me an email or give me a call and let me know what your success stories are. Just to start out a little bit, so Tom Cunningham is my name. I am 17 years as a real estate broker in Texas, and about 12 years ago I started doing broker price opinions, and that's what this was really born out of, right? So broker price opinion, if you don't know, is like an express appraisal. Goes through a lot of appraisal methodology, but it doesn't go through all the way. So instead of a 5-hour appraisal, they used to take a couple of hours. And my whole deal at the beginning of it was that I was bound and determined to start make the 2 hours, 20 minutes, right? So that's how it started. And I started working with appraisers right away. These are a couple of guys that are on our advisory board. These are appraisers in San Antonio. We have another one in Houston, and we have another one in Dallas. The big deal with using appraisal methodology in a CMA is making adjustments and finding a way to automate things and just make it faster, right? We've talked about how we make adjustments, but the whole point of automating them is so that you can blast through this process and feel confident about what you're turning in a fraction of the time, right? So we use data-informed adjustments. Our adjustments are built on, the principle of substitution, which is, if you're happy with this, would you be happy with that? And if you are, then you probably don't need to make an adjustment. But if you're not, you either need to make an adjustment or find a different comp. And so we started working on a pre-programmed adjustments, and we've tested them all over the place with thousands of agents, hundreds of CMA classes, teaching thousands of agents, getting plenty of realtor feedback. So this whole thing is a combination of input from realtors and appraisers and thousands of hours of conversations and God knows how many CMAs over the last 10 years. So that's just to give you a bit of a background on where we are and where we're coming from. I always start out every class with this, and the reason that I do this is because we use a lot of appraisal methodology, right? We use broker price opinion methodology, and we use appraisal methodology, and we take those. We don't do everything, but a lot of the things that we do are out of the appraisal handbook, right? And so the first thing I want to just put out there is CMA Snap does not generate an appraisal. It's a comparative market analysis. It's not the same as an appraisal that's generated by a licensed appraiser under the uniform standards of professional appraisal practice. And it's intended to be prepared by a licensed real estate agent. I got a friend who gave me comps. She got them on Zillow. That's not the same thing, right? And you're really supposed to be using these things to help someone establish the value of their property in a listing, potential listing price or potential purchase price. So you can't use a CMA for lending, tax, or legal purposes. They won't stand up in court, and the IRS, and you may be able to use one as additional evidence if you have to, if you're trying to make a case with an IRS and an audit, but using it as a tax basis is a dicey proposition when you're actually filing a return, right? So here's the thing about lead generation, right? There's two kinds. There's outbound and inbound, okay? So outbound lead generation, man, you have to believe in yourself. You have to believe in how you're doing it. You got to believe in what you're putting out there. And then you have to recognize and own the fact that what you're going to be sending them has value, right? And then there's inbound, right? Which, listen, at some point, everybody that knows you has already called you and told you that they want to sell a house, right? But don't kid yourself, because, inbound is, has more than one meaning. And you still, even if they're inbound leads, you still need to be prepared to have a conversation and be able to demonstrate that you know what you're talking about, right? So in lead generation, we rely on the principle of reciprocity, right? Principle of reciprocity is, look, if you do something nice for someone, they're going to feel obligated. I used to call it the Christmas gift theory, right? You invite someone to your Christmas party, and they walk in the door, and you hand them in front of all these people. You hand them a big old Christmas gift, and they the first thing that they say was, "I didn't get anything for you." Right? It's ingrained in us, and so we rely on that bit of human instinct to be able to carry us forward and hopefully get some feedback, some positive feedback. All you're looking to do is get positive feedback and get people to consider you, right? Then we apply the principle of competence, right? We're going to give you everything that you need to know to be able to do an assessment on the market in a very, very short period of time. And really, you know what? When, we're supposed to be competent, there's all kinds of Trek rules against, selling a property in an area that you're unfamiliar with. It's a recipe for disaster. And so what you can do here is you can demonstrate that you understand the market and that you have the training experience and skill level to be able to represent someone. And from that point, once you've established that you know what you're talking about, then it comes down to whether or not they like you, right? Personality, choice, and there's limited things you can do about that, right? I had an instructor a long time ago that used to say that you show them everything that you know how to do, and then it comes down to whether or not they prefer their data delivered with a smile or a smirk, right? Do you want to be warm and charming, or do you want to be kind of cynical and snarky? That's kind of and then it's the funnel, right? You fill the funnel and it weeds back down to you to actual dollars, right? So if you think about it, it's just a marketing framework that helps figure out where people are in the buying decision. The thing is that if you fill the funnel, at the very least it creates brand awareness, right? If they've never heard of you, they can't consider you, and if they don't consider you, they're not going to hire you. So look, what we do is we give stuff for free. In lead gen and using CMAs, we're giving something valuable for free. And once they start to consider it, then you get an opportunity to be able to position yourself as the expert, right? You're putting out information that it's legit, right? And it gives you talking points, and it raises questions for them to ask you. And then when you get into those conversations, at some point they'll reveal their motivation. I'm moving next month, or I'm moving in 6 months, or boy, I always thought about having a house down here, but not quite sure what the deal is. It'll open up a lot of things that you can use to help be able to get them over the line and choose you as an agent, right? So where are you going to get them, right? So in outbound marketing, the way that I look at things first, and I've gone through the mailers, I've gone through the postcards, I've sent the magnets, all of that stuff, and I got very little off of it, and it's just like you're shadow boxing, right? You're just sending all this crap out. You don't want to line someone's birdcage, okay? But if you'll reach out to the people that your customers are already doing business with and just offer them up, some value of service. The tricky part is not to ask for anything in return, right? That's the key to reciprocity, is that you give someone something of value, but you don't ask for anything in return, and sooner or later that'll come back to you. So the people that I, have always been after were like divorce attorneys. I know people that have made a ton of money talking to divorce attorneys. Man, send them a CMA. They use them to estimate property value when they're talking about division of assets. Estate planners and probate attorneys, man, they, every day they're trying to figure out how to divvy up, grandma and grandpa's stuff, right? And then there's wealth managers, right? They're doing it all. Financial advisors, everyone knows, especially if you have a client that's got a large portfolio is rental property, then yeah, man, they're always going to want to know how things are are coming together. Accountants, tax pros. There's a guy in San Antonio that's a subscriber, and that guy runs like 600 reports a year. And all he does is tax protest. He's an attorney, and he's got wired in with a bunch of buddies down at the appraisal district, and all he does is do tax protests for clients. And the guy does some volume, I mean, if you save money for somebody on their property taxes, they're very unlikely to call another realtor unless you just drop off the plan and stop calling them, right? Mortgage brokers and lenders, this has been a huge one for me. Man, I got a couple of mortgage guys down here. Every mortgage guy in the world is getting pounded by realtors wanting free stuff. It's gimme, right? It's like, hey, will you buy the breakfast tacos for our next sales meeting? Hey, will you co-market and pay for half of my marketing crap that I'm going to take to my open house. If you approach it in a different way, if you approach a mortgage guy and just say, hey, listen, I have this software and I'm able to make a pretty solid determination really quickly on whether or not, a property is priced fairly. And anytime you're looking at somebody, if they're just talking to you and they give you an address and all that stuff, before you go and, order an appraisal, I mean, maybe this will give you at least, something to figure out whether or not you're in the ballpark, right? And they go crazy over it, man. New home sales reps too, but, specifically mortgage brokers, man, if you go in there and you're offering something of value and you're not asking for anything in return, believe me when I tell you, they will find people that are going out to get pre-qualified and haven't picked a realtor yet. And I've got 2 or 3 of them in Austin that have been really good to me over the years. And then the other thing is, this is one of my favorite, is finding a real estate investor that's managing his own stuff. If you get a guy that, the way that I do it is, I'll go in and I'll look for absentee ownership in the CADs, right? And we're working out on something to help you streamline that process as well. But I'll work on absentee ownership in the CAD. So it's somebody that, there's a property, but the owner's address is somewhere else, right? And then usually if you look up that guy, he's got 4 or 5 different properties maybe. And you know what? Property management's expensive. My neighbors pay 8% a year. Well, hell, man, if you're willing to, help somebody value their property, once they get ready to sell something, you're only charging them 6, so they're saving 2 points right away. And this is another one. I went and got my SRES, I think. And listen, man, this is another one. When grandma and grandpa get ready to move, if you know some of those people, and you can go out there and help them and all it does is give them one more data point that they can, show their clients, because they're in sales too. Right, they're trying to convince you that they're the right person to help, ease grandma into the assisted living facility, and oh, by the way, it's concierge service, and we can do a whole lot of stuff. And then landlords, again, we talked about absentee owners a second ago. That one of my favorites. I ran into an agent the other day that was working on selling her 5th house to somebody, and so. From an outbound standpoint, you can't be bashful. Yeah, this is the point where I'm going to break off for a second. Now, look, we're talking about doing a whole lot of CMAs, right? You guys still see my screen? Are you watching my stuff here?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, CMA Snap. So I'm going to go into the app. You get logged in. Okie dokie, logged in, make sure my account's set squared away. Yep, that's all good. Okay, so look, all I'm going to do is I'm just going to go in and start pretending like I'm just running, I'm looking up a lawyer, I'm looking up an accountant, I'm looking up somebody, right? And they give me an address and I go, okay, here you go, no problem. Okay, watch this. I'm going to copy the address, I'm going to go in here, I'm going to put it in a new report. It's under residential. I'm going to pick it from the down list, and as soon as it pops up, I'm going to run a report on it, and I'm going to assume all that stuff is right. Okay, now I've never been in this house before, right? So there's a couple things that I want to do. The first thing I want to do before I send it out is I want to go over here, and I'm not going to get too forensic, I'm not going to get too hung up on picking the comps and all that stuff. What I'm going to do is I'm going to wait for these pictures to download. That's the first thing I'm going to do. And this will be a lot faster for you guys when you get going on it, all right? Okay, so, yeah, that all looks fine. Okay, so watch this. So I'm going to send a short report. I'm going to go in here, and I'm going to click Edit. And I'm going to write Bob a note here. Bob, thanks. And here you go. All right, and let's make sure that he can see it, right? What's that? Bam. And then I'm going to block out the sales price. Okay, so I do that because I've never been in the house, right? If I walk in this house and go, that looks like a great $1 million house, and then and as it turns out, then they have 5 pet chimpanzees that have never been outside. That's not a good thing, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy, and I'm going to use the public link. Okay, the public link hides all of the addresses and property specific stuff, right? So I'm going to copy the public link, and then I'm going to go back in here into chat, and I'll just start putting these things into the chat for you, and take a look at them. I mean, let's go get another one. Let's see, I did that one in, I don't know, a couple of minutes. All right, let's go grab this one, Pearson Street. Okay, fine, whatever, Pearson Street. All right, copy, new report. All right, get Pearson Street in Raleigh. I'm going to pick up the listing. I'm going to create the report. I'm going to click on submit. Oh, no garage. All right, I'm going to click on submit. I'll wait a couple of minutes here, a couple of seconds. We're trying to get in, consistently under 5 seconds. It depends on, where you are and how your internet is, and all these things. I'm pretty happy with those comps. I like that one a lot. So I'm going to go ahead and click on short report. I'm going to click on edit. I'm going to go, hey, how about this one? Hey, how about this one? All right, put a little style, make sure they can see it. Header 1, block off the sales price, click on copy the private link, and there's 2. So the point being is that you can do 20 CMAs in an hour without too much problem, right? And they're super easy to share. What I do when I'm outbounding is I'll get a guy's address or his email, and just send him a sample report, right? And when they look at the sample report, I mean, man, it looks pretty good. This is what the customer sees, okay? Yeah, this is what the customer sees. And you can go through and they go, well, hang on a second, which house is this, which house is that? Okay, well, let's get a little bit more specific. And when you're a little bit closer to being a customer, I'll reveal everything. I'll reveal all, right? So just wanted to break off a quick second and show you, how fast you can actually do stuff, right? And then the other thing you can do is the long report is right here. I'll get into this, and actually I'm going to get into that in a second. Okay, so I'm going to continue with the presentation. Okay, all right. So we talked about the outbound, and that is proactively doing CMAs. I know several people that have made a whole lot of money by picking a neighborhood that has a good high turnover, right? And then just going and, dropping them on doors, right? Knocking on doors. Door knocking is not what it used to be, but if you don't want to do that, there's other ways to do inbound, to get inbound leads. And so we're going to talk about a couple of those right now. All right, so tell me if you can hear this.
I was actually at the grocery store not too long ago and started up a conversation with someone about their house. And looked up on CMA Snap, was really easy to pull up some information and got a client out of it. So I also regularly use it at open houses where you're already having conversations about real estate. These are people who are already interested, and you're just able to supplement that with even more information than they're getting from probably your average agent. So yeah, I mean, with those couple closings alone, I was able to obviously pay for like 17 years of CMA Snap, which is wonderful.
So yeah, that's one of my OGs, Maggie Maddox. She was actually started out. I've met her at a GRI class years and years ago. Now she's a broker owner, and she's got 4 or 5 agents, and she's killing it, man. Okay, so look, in open houses, man, when you use these reports, you have to be able to pivot into a conversation about real estate. Right, whatever's happening, wherever you are, if you're in the grocery store line, if you're in a parking lot, if you're at a trade show, if you're wherever. But in open houses, it's just a layup because people are already in the mood and the mindset to look at real estate, right? So there's some icebreakers that you can ask, right? So hey, listen, you guys interested in seeing how this home compares to others in the neighborhood? If you show them, start leading with the data, right, and showing them stuff, you're not going to come across as just somebody that opens doors, right? Hey, I got a full CMA on this house, and nearby sales. If you guys are interested in some context, love to show it to you, right? Put yourself out there, make yourself knowledgeable, right? Hey, listen, market stats. This area's been trending, kind of up and down. Actually, I'd love to show you how that might affect your buying power, because right now, in my market in Galveston, Texas, it is an extreme buyer's market. And so when I am doing open houses every weekend until the summer's over, because I've been getting a ton of buyer traffic. As a matter of fact, I actually closed one On July the 2nd, some people that walked into an open house that I did on May 24th, they said, "Hey, where'd you get this report?" I had it laying out on the counter. They said, "Hey, where'd you get this report?" And I told them the story, and they said, "Well, would you run one like this on our house or on this house that we're looking at out in Pirates Beach?" And then, okay, somebody tell me what my next question should have been. Do you have a realtor? Right? Are you represented already? No, absolutely. So by the end of that day, I had a signed buyer's rep agreement, and 2 days later, I was under contract on a house that was listed for $450,000, and I used the CMA Snap report to knock $20,000 off the sales price. So they work, and so that made a believer out of me. So instead of, I was grumbling about doing open houses, and I'm no longer grumbling now. I can't wait to get down there, man. So anyway, so don't give up on the open house thing. That's all I'm saying. All right. Okay, so hey, are you guys just browsing, or do you have a property that you need to sell in order to be able to make this happen? I'd be happy to follow up with a really accurate market analysis so you can see where your equity position is. I mean, this home listed for $438,000. Here's 3 examples of recent sales that influenced the price. You have to help them understand, what fair market value looks like, right? This one sold at list in 1 day. Do you want to see what the difference is? I mean, why would this one sell so fast and the other ones just languish on the market? And listen, even if this isn't the one, I can help you evaluate any home using sales data like this, right? You want to position yourself as a resource for their entire search, whether it's today or next week or next month. And, the other thing is that most online valuations are way off. If you want real numbers on your current home using appraisal methodology and broker price opinion methodology, then I'd love to talk to you. So look, this one sold in 8 days, right? I mean, that's fantastic. This is an active, it's currently on market at $600. This one sold in 8 days, pretty damn close to on the money. Yeah, $5,000 off the list price is sold in 8 days. If you'd like, I could be happy to run you through and show you why some houses sell faster than others. There's that, right? And then there are, hey, listen, if you guys are just thinking about, if you're not ready to sell a house, or if you I don't know if you have to sell your house to buy something new, or if you're thinking about it, why don't you let me, right? All of these houses are active, and just as quickly I can, we can run down the analysis on any one of these houses, right? So there's a ton of stuff that you can do to just like establish your, your bona fides, right off the bat. So keep that in mind, and don't get discouraged if it doesn't happen right away, because it very rarely does. All right. Let me leave you with a couple of do's and don'ts before I open it up for questions, right? The first thing is, don't do it later. It doesn't take very long to run 4 or 5 CMAs in the morning and find somebody to send them to. Whether you're sending them to your friends, or whether you're sending them to a neighbor, or whether you're sending them to an attorney, a divorce attorney, just send them out. Just make it a habit to do 4 or 5 CMAs every day. The second thing is, don't get too forensic. These are marketing, top of the funnel sorts of things, right? You're not going to get property specific, okay? And you're going to blur out the sales prices. You're not going to get yourself into a box, but send out a bunch of them, and it starts creating brand awareness, okay? The thing that you do want to do is blur the pricing out, right? You've never been in the house. Also, write a note. Just very simple. I showed you how to do it earlier. Just write a little note and let them know what's happening, right? And then use the long report at open houses. I promise you that it works. Biggest takeaway, people love free stuff, right? You establish your expertise right away. You lead with the data, and you get the client engaged in a pricing conversation. Right? So I'm going to open it up to questions now, but I just want to thank you guys for tuning in and checking us out. Don't forget, go to the resources page on the website. There's all kinds of stuff there, videos, FAQs, all kinds of things. So I'm going to go ahead and open it up for questions now.
So Tom, what's the best way to learn how to properly use CMA Snap?
Do reports.
Just
get in there. Just get in there and do it. Listen, the thing it'll take a new agent, and it'll teach them how CMA should be done properly. And it'll take a seasoned agent and let them be able to execute on their vision 10 times faster. There is no substitute for getting in there and just poking around. You're not going to break the app. Yeah, listen, if you get in there and you start doing CMAs, what we found is that when people do like 10 CMAs, they never go back to the MLS or or any other programs, because it's just so damn fast and it's so damn easy. I mean, you guys just watched me do 2 CMAs in less than 5 minutes. And when you're lead generating, it's a numbers game, man. It really is. But people go, well, it's quality over quantity. Well, yeah, but you got to throw out a big net to be able to weed out all the fish that you don't want. So I mean, that's really it for today. I just wanted to let you guys know that the key to being able to do all of this is to be able to run reports really fast, and the only way to do that is to get in there and just run some reports. Yumile, I am expecting to hear some sort of report on how your open house went. I'm fixing to put mine in the MLS. I'll be doing Saturday and Sunday from 12 to 4 on Saturday and from 12 to 3 on Sunday. There you go. Hopefully I'll be going home with a new buyer's rep agreement signed and in the bag. All right, everybody. Well, thank you very much for tuning in. And if I can help anybody, here's my cell phone number.